You smell that?
I do, but I can't really tell what it is.
It smells like Underdog. Happy Monday and welcome into the PHNX Sun Devils show, coming to you live from Studio K, presented by Circle K. Join Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit circlek.com for details. I am Anthony Totri, joined as always on a marvelous Monday by the one, the only Erik Ruby. We've got Captain Redbeard behind the Mac. He is making all of the magic happen. Got BC in the chat. Do us a solid. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a tasty 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Sun Devil fans everywhere, your Devils are 3-0. Big opportunity this week to move to 4-0 in the team's first conference game as a member of the Big 12 against Texas Tech. Obviously, this is just the appetizer for everything that we got going on all week long. At the tail end of the show, we're going to be talking a little bit about those Texas Tech Red Raiders, what you might expect to see, who are some playmakers for them. We're going to get into Kenny Dillingham's opening press conference this week. What Dilly have to say about some of those Sun Devils, and then, of course, obviously the first game in the Big 12. But we are going to start today's show talking about the AP Top 25. Because the Arizona State Sun Devils started to get some votes.
You called it.
I did.
You're right.
There's not a number by their name yet. But 3 votes. This is the first time Arizona State has received AP Top 25 votes since Kenny Dillingham was announced as the head coach season and change ago. Can you believe it, Erik?
You know, in this moment right now, I can believe it because of how they've played through 3 weeks. But if you asked me at any point during this season if Arizona State University would be receiving top 25 votes, I probably would have said no.
Yeah.
If I'm just being completely honest, I probably would have said no.
That's valid.
Because I think there's a difference between being an improved team and being a better team versus being a top 25 team in the nation.
Yeah.
I mean, if you at the end of last season said, hey, on September 16th, you're going to do a show and the opening topic is going to be Arizona State football got 3 votes in the AP Top 25.
It'd feel weird.
I would be like, what happened?
Yeah.
Like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Right?
Arch Manning? Is that you?
No, it's really awesome. And I know that there are a lot of haters out there for ASU where people think that, you know, we're a little too homer or a little bit too high on it. They've played really good football throughout 3 weeks. And there's nothing that you can say to go against that. A lot of people are using the Texas State thing as like they didn't play anybody. Texas State's a good football team. If you know, you know. Mississippi State, not a great weekend for Mississippi State.
No, and Wyoming doesn't look good at all.
No, so I understand that. And I understand there are some people with that thought process. But for where this program was 6 months ago versus where it is right now, to even be in the conversation for the AP Top 25 is a massive success. But now, if you're basing off your expectations currently, you're like, well, let's get in there.
Yeah.
Why stop at votes? Let's get to 4-0. Now you're underdogs on the road against Texas Tech. Take home that win. You are probably looking at an AP Top 20. You're probably 25.
Yeah. I mean, it depends. It depends how you get it done.
Goes on, yeah.
And what else goes on. Obviously, what goes down Saturday kind of morning when Arizona State takes on Texas Tech. But yeah, you're right. It's if you would have tried to have this conversation this time last year, even at that point, it was like there's not really a way. Not really a way, right? Because this team had a self-imposed bowl ban 3 days before the season started in 2023. And then you look time and time again, oh, this player got hurt, or oh, they lost this way, or oh, they couldn't squeak it out here, right? And then to fast forward to this point and see that Arizona State is getting some national love, some national respect. I think it goes a long way. But for me, and I know for this team, right, non-con is what it is. You're 3-0. You're going to close that book and then you're going to open up an entirely new one in conference play because this is the season that matters, right? All that other stuff was to help you get to this point where in reality, you want to go 9-0 in this conference play. You don't want to go 3-0, and I'm not saying that's necessarily what's going to happen, but that's what you're aiming for at every point. In Arizona State, again, we'll get into it a little bit later on, against a Texas Tech team that scores a lot of points. Defensively, one of the worst teams in this conference. In Arizona State, through the first 3 weeks of the season, people want to talk about Mississippi State. People want to talk about Wyoming or Texas State. Like you said, like Kenny said, Texas State was the best team that this team faced up to this point in the season. They proved that. Texas State is a really good football team. They're going to run the table the rest of their schedule. Their one loss here in 2024 is going to be to your Arizona State Sun Devils. And that says a whole hell of a lot. Mississippi State, I know what that final score was. Let's be real. That game wasn't really close, right? It's not like it was a back and forth contest the entire way and Arizona State squeaked out a win. That's not how that went. And then, yes, Wyoming is bad. Guess what? Arizona State beat them by 41 points.
They did what good teams do, right? If you're going to talk about strength of schedule and you're going to talk about the first 2 games specifically, again, if you downplay Texas State, I'm just going to assume that you are just not fully aware
You're
of what's
college
going
football
on.
casual, which is fine.
Which, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. But to make like these blanket statements about like, oh, well, Texas State's terrible. You guys are celebrating a win over a Sun Belt team. It's like you are not aware of the full picture, right?
Yeah,
Which
you
is
just
fine.
don't get it.
It's fine. You don't have to listen to them. We don't have to listen to them. You know what I mean? I mean, Texas State fans were in here before the game talking about they were going to beat us by 60.
Yeah, didn't find him at all in that postgame, though.
You don't have that type of confidence. Yeah, none of them showed up. You don't have that type of confidence if you're not a good team, right? Mississippi State doesn't look great, but you can also argue that losing to Arizona State might have affected them a little bit.
Maybe.
Might have broken them a little bit. Same thing with Wyoming, right? You get the brakes beaten off you in week 1. ASU's done everything a good team does. Plus, we've seen really good teams have close games at the end against worse teams. If you want to consider Texas State a worse team, say, oh, well, they were close at the end. Well, ASU still came back and won that game on the road on a short week.
Yeah.
You know, you'd be giving all these excuses for a team like, I'm not even really trying to throw shots here, but if you look at the Arizona Wildcats, the excuses are vomiting. Yeah. They're vomiting out for that team nationally, right? About, oh, well, Brent Brennan and Kansas State's really good and, you know,
which
this
is
and that.
True.
Well, no, it's all true. But what I'm saying is like, if ASU was a team that was expected to be in the top 25 or expected to be in the top half of the Big 12, and they've had these first 3 weeks, every excuse in the book for them on the parts that people are using to argue against them would be written off.
Yeah.
Oh, they're a really good team, but they took care of business on the road when they were down, and that's what good teams do. Oh, they're a really good team, and they blew out Wyoming week 1. That's what good teams do.
Yeah.
It's all about how you frame it, and the way that they frame it comes off as a negative to me. It reinforces that this team is good. Are they great? We're yet to find out. Next game against Texas Step will be a good step in that direction.
It will be a step in that direction, but I don't even think after that game you'll be able to define if this team is great.
No,
I think that is a conversation that you'll have when Kansas comes to town, and even then Kansas hasn't looked good.
Right.
But that will be a big test, especially if Arizona State has a number next to their name. And then the following week, then you've got Utah. So there are definitely opportunities on this schedule for Arizona State to prove to everybody that they aren't, the same old Sun Devils. But up until that point, again, Arizona State comes into this week against Texas Tech, a 3.5-point road underdog. So nationally getting a tad bit of respect, but still, from my personal opinion, I don't think enough respect, right? So 3.5-point underdog, I will say this is going to be a back and forth contest, I imagine. Again, I think Arizona State's offense is going to be able to tear up Texas Tech. I think 3.5-point underdog is a little ridiculous. I think it should be a little bit more of a pick'em. But at the end of the day, like, this team is going to embrace being the underdog. It's what they do. They enjoy that, right? What can he say in camp? That this is a team full of misfits and guys that nobody wants, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to go out there every single week with that mentality, whether there's a number next to their name or not, because they each have that story, right? They each have their own personal journey to getting to Arizona State that made them feel that way, that they weren't good enough to play where they were at, or that somebody told them that this isn't the stop for you. You're maybe just a second-tier guy, right? And what have they done? They've chewed it up, and they've spit it out 3-0. 3.5-point underdogs is again, it's going to be interesting, and a sign that this team is embracing it, as I tweeted that out, I believe Sunday evening. And one of the very first retweets was Kenny Dillingham. They know. This team knows that they are underdogs. They know that Lubbock is going to be a test. It's their first road game as a member of the Big 12. We talked all offseason about the environments of some of these Big 12 opponents and some of these Big 12 teams because college football is something that they eat, breathe, and sleep 24/7. And they're going to get their first taste of that. You go into Lubbock and you take care of business, everybody's going to know who the Arizona State Sun Devils are.
It's different. When you go into conference play, you can't write it off as much. No. And, it's interesting because you could look at, Texas Tech had a really good game against North Texas. And obviously North Texas isn't great. But if we're going to give ASU their flowers for beating Wyoming, you can give Texas Tech their flowers for bouncing back and beating a North Texas team and absolutely dominating.
Yeah.
Right? On offense and on defense, which is not something they had really done at all this season. So good for them, right? I think that plays actually a massive role into why they're even favored.
Yeah.
I think if they had another close game, that wouldn't have happened, right? But what I like about this is I do feel like ASU is talented enough to beat them. I do feel like internally ASU should have the expectations to win, but you're still at a point where you can't get ahead of yourself. You can't go, oh, you know what? We're favored in our first Big 12 game. No, you have to take it seriously. They doubt you, right? You're on the road and they doubt you. And then if ASU shows up there and beats them on the road to start off Big 12 play as underdogs, and then you go into a bye week, a lot of people are going to sit on that and they're going to talk themselves even more into Arizona State than a lot of people already have. I mean, I know we talk about not getting enough respect, and you mentioned the AP Top 25. A lot of people are talking about Arizona State, a lot more than I kind of expected at this point. And I don't think it's some national story where everybody is accepting that ASU football is some sort of powerhouse. Heck, go look at some of the comments on some of the stuff that we've posted. People are not all the way on board.
No.
But I do believe that it's gaining momentum and it's gaining traction. And if you are able to capitalize on that, you've had over a week to prepare, you're getting a little bit healthier, and you're playing the best team that you've played so far this season, it's starting to look like. Before last week, you could maybe argue Texas
I think
State.
You could still argue Texas State
I
is a better team.
I think you still probably could. I think until I see ASU play Tech, I'm going to wait to make that assessment. But before Tech went off against North Texas, I was leaning Texas State. Now it's like I'm not going to change it a ton, but it was pretty close in the first place.
Yeah.
Either way, a majority of national media and casual college football fans will give you 10 times more credit for beating a Texas Tech than a Texas State. Doesn't really matter what the actual talent disparity is.
No, that's 100% fair. And Will in the chat, 3.5 point favorite for the home team usually means that it's a toss up at a neutral site. Books give a 3-point swing for the home field advantage. That is true. So it should feel a little bit more like a half-point toss-up game. But again, it is what it is. If Arizona State was getting the respect that we feel like they deserve, they would be a favorite going into this game. But again, it means nothing to the team. It means nothing to the coaching staff. It just adds fuel to the fire. Nihilti in the chat, Corners will be the X factor against Texas Tech. We'll obviously get into all that type of stuff a little bit later on in the show. I think, again, being a 3.5 point underdog is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a team that on a short week took care of business on the road. It says a lot. You had 9 days now. 9 days from when Texas State was over to when Texas Tech game starts.
You got to watch their game all Saturday uninterrupted.
Getting healthy, getting your mind right, and then as a team, being able to really lock in and get some of those key players back. I do want to get into some injury updates that we heard from Kenny Dillingham at his press conference today, with the most notable one being edge rusher Prince Dorba. Prince Dorba will be back this week. Against Texas Tech. That is going to be absolutely massive. Sharon in the chat, Fresh Prince of ASU. Absolutely. He will be back. This is a guy that tied the team lead for sacks just a season ago. We said all camp looks bigger, looks stronger, looks faster. And now you're going to get to see that. His first game in this conference. He's going to be healthy. It's going to be absolutely huge. And it's going to provide some more depth for that edge rushing position. Obviously, saw Jamon Tapp. He got in the game last week. Elijah O'Neal, he's had a pretty solid start to the season.
He's had a really good start to the season.
And then Clayton Smith as well. Always helps going opposite of a guy that you are familiar with. Now to the offensive line. Sean Na, Kenny said they are hopeful. They are hopeful that Sean Na will be available this week. So at that point, he didn't necessarily list him as like questionable, but hopeful that they can get him back this week. Again, it would be huge whether he starts or whether that is just a depth piece at this point. I'm a little
Not like concern. I would probably put my money on he's not going to play. They've been a little bit extra cautious. You saw it with Raleek as well.
Yeah,
and we thought Raleek was going to be back week 2. Ended up coming back week 3. Again, not a huge deal, but just kind of a pattern that I've noticed when they talk about injuries. Unless he's saying 100% somebody's coming back, it feels like
hopeful.
they take a more cautious approach, which I don't hate, especially for a team that suffered so much with injuries and whatever last year. But I would say until I hear the words come out of his mouth, oh yeah, Sean Nell's going to play for us today, I would probably assume he's not going to play.
Yeah, I mean, we will obviously see. We'll see how he trends throughout the week in practice. But yes, Doorbell will be back. Hopeful. Kongaika and Swanson, Arizona State's defensive tackles, both of which missed last week's game against Texas State. Had some time to recover. Still questionable going into this week, so that obviously hurts. Obviously, Arizona State needs that depth on the interior of that defensive line this week. You saw it last week against Texas State. Kenny said that they are hopeful that they get at least one of those guys back. That would definitely go a long way just in terms of the rotation, in terms of depth. Obviously, a dream scenario is you get both of those guys back. DeCarlos Brooks is questionable. Missed last week's game. They're going to see how he trends throughout the week. And then running back Raleek Brown also moved back to questionable as well. Played at about 85% last week. Kenny said he just wants to make sure it's not necessarily fair to Raleek if he's not 100% throwing him out there. So we'll obviously see and keep up on those trends as the week kind of goes on. Dropped it in the Die Hard Discord earlier this morning before that press conference. Linebacker Jordan Crook, he should be back. As well, trending in that direction to be available, which goes a long way for that rotation. The last one, Tate Romney, still a ways away. Kenny said arms don't heal quickly. And he
don't I know it?
Had a broken one. So that is still a missing link in that linebacker room. But adding Jordan Crook back there would be pretty massive.
We have our first score prediction in the chat.
I see that.
Josh. I wonder if Josh is an ASU or a Texas Tech fan. The score prediction is 77-13 Texas Tech. Josh, I'll tell you what.
Here we go. We're making a bet this early.
If ASU loses by 64 points or more on Saturday, I'll Venmo you $100.
Or just give it out money. 64. Yeah, they're not.
If they lose by 64 or more points, I'll give you some money.
I think that's fair, right? That's fair.
If they don't, you have to like and subscribe, and you have to watch the entire post-game show.
That's fair, too. Dallas in the chat. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Had orthopedic surgery on my leg 2 weeks ago on my leg after a dirt bike accident. Just learned today that my surgeon played at ASU and for the Panthers for 8 years. Well, hopefully the recovery goes well. That would be awesome. Get you walking soon. Tough week to be a Panthers fan at all, but ASU definitely good. Guys, do a solid. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Look, we have a lot more to get into. We're going to take a listen into what Kenny Dillingham had to say at his opening press conference this morning. We're going to get into that, but first we are going to take just a short break to tell you a little bit about our friends over at Sanderson Ford. Guys, Sanderson Ford is giving you big payoffs like 0% financing on a bunch of new vehicles. The 2024 F-150, the Escape, the Edge, the Explorer, the Expeditions, they have it all. And if you've never been to the Sanderson Ford location, let me tell you, that thing feels like it's as big as Disneyland. 65 acres. It is the largest Ford dealership in the nation. They've got a little diner that you can go check out, the Starliner Diner. Some great food.
Good prices.
Even better prices. My goodness. They've got some merch in there. And
fire merch.
That's where you're stopping to have breakfast or lunch, and then you can get back to what you want to do, and that is getting yourself a brand new vehicle over at Sanderson Ford. I am a little bit biased, but I would highly recommend the 2024 Ford Bronco Sport Big Ben.
Don't shut up about it.
It is just ranked highest in quality in its segment by J.D. Power. Guys, shop the Sanderson Ford Playoff Payoff Sale with no hassle, no pressure, and no nonsense. Football is back, and so are the deals at Arizona's largest Ford dealership, Sanderson Ford. See dealer for details.
Oh, I love our friends over at Game Time.
I thought you were going to start singing there for a second.
I could do a little ditty.
Okay.
for getting. I won't
do what
it.
you got to do, man.
I'll save it. Listen, Game Time's awesome. It does want to make me sing sometimes because of the amazing deals that they have. It's not just about finding the nice, cheapest tickets, because obviously that's a massive part of using Game Time, but it's about feeling secure in it as well. The last thing you want to do is make a big purchase, go see a big concert, go to a game, and you don't like where your seat is. You don't like the view. You prefer to see it from a different angle, right? And with Game Time, you can see the view from your seat. You can customize everything. You can pick an upcoming live event in the app for their most personal experience, and you can look it up, and you could take all of the hidden fees and everything out of there, completely upfront pricing, which is massive, and not a lot of places and ticketing apps are going to let you do that. Of course, on top of that, you can get $20 off. All you have to do is take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. But again, create an account, redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time.
Game time.
Captain Redbeard.
Game time.
Love it.
Oh, he's getting more and more into
He's
it.
getting juiced. I think it's just as we set, as we really get into the deep sea.
Mm-hmm.
Captain Redbeard is really taking his
He's
role as captain.
Got to fire up the crew,
Yeah, I respect that.
Kyle gets me fired up.
Yeah, that's our captain.
I'll be like, hey, Kyle, I know you got a lot on your plate, man. Let me know. And he just looks me dead in the eye. He goes, I got it.
Yeah, no,
I'll handle
this guy is an animal.
I am the grind.
This guy is an absolute animal. Will in the chat, if you get either Kangaika or Swanson back, Tech would be lucky to score more than 24 points this week. Plus, that defense of theirs is a major liability. 35-21 Arizona State.
Would love to see it.
Again, we'll talk a little bit more about Texas Tech at the tail end of today's show. We'll have several shows dedicated, obviously, to that full-on preview. And then we will have, at one point this week, tight end Jalin Conyers, former Arizona State Sun Devil, current Texas Tech tight end. He'll be on the show talking a little bit about the matchup. I know he's excited to face his former team, former coach. It should definitely be a good one. But heading into this week, talking about Texas Tech, obviously all eyes on their offense. A lot of people really love that Arizona State defense from what we've seen over the last couple of weeks. But I think Sam Leavitt is really the guy, right? The guy that got the flowers and deserved to get some flowers after his performance against Texas State. Everybody wanted to talk about how young, inexperienced this kid was, and he went out there and he dueled, man. He had himself an absolutely baller game. And Kenny Dillingham was asked during his press conference today just a little bit about the growth and how he approaches Sam Leavitt, who is one of the most competitive people on the team. And I'll be honest, guys, he gave one of the best answers of the entire press conference.
People are going to ask me questions about Sam every week. It's going to be the same. He's the same dude every single week. He's going to show up early. He's going to leave late. He's going to do everything he can to prepare for. He's going to be really, really hard and critical on himself. I don't know if you guys noticed, but last week in the middle of the practice, he missed a throw, and I started telling him he sucked. Because he's so competitive that if I tell him it's okay, right, he gets mad at himself because he knows it's not okay. So I tell him he sucks, and he's like, well, screw that guy. I can throw. And it flips the mindset for him. But it's just he's so competitive. He's an ultra competitor. And you can see that when he plays. He gets targeted and pops right back up and doesn't even blink. And we don't want him to get targeted. We want him to fall down. We don't want him to fall down, but it's still, this kid's awesome. I'm glad he's the guy that with 4 years left, I get to say my tenure here is linked very strongly to him. And I'm glad that he's the guy that it's linked to.
I'll be honest, I was laughing my tail off the entire time when he was telling him that he sucks. Right. That's just, again, just kind of goes to show the relationship that these two have really, really early on. And we're only in week 4, right? So imagine what it's going to be 6 weeks in, 8 weeks in. And then you talk about kind of the tail end of that answer.
That was
Kenny,
what really got my attention.
I'm glad that my tenure is tied to Sam Leavitt, right? These guys are only going to grow together in that relationship. And I think you're only going to see Sam Leavitt get better as the season goes on.
And not just the season, but if he's talking tenure, this is a young guy with multiple years of eligibility left.
Yeah, redshirt freshman.
This is somebody who can be the quarterback for Arizona State University for quite some time.
Yeah.
Right? That's a really big deal to be like, hey, my tenure goes with this guy. And that's a really big vote of confidence and also understanding him from a Kenny Dillingham level, the quarterback whisperer is such a massive deal.
It is.
Like feeling like you're on the same page, feeling like you can say, like, okay, I know I can tell him that he sucks because he'll take it the right way. In fact, it reminded me so much of something. I had super producer Kyle pull it up and put it on a background real quick while I was listening to that. This is what Kenny Dillingham and Sam Leavitt are. Okay, for those of you on audio, it's the meme where it's two people's brains and they're like connected via some sort of mystical power or energy.
That's Marcus Arroyo. Arroyo's the power.
Arroyo is what connects the two of them. No, seriously, this is what it seems like. And in order to have a good football team, you have to have that type of continuity and that type of chemistry between your head coach, your offensive coordinator, and your quarterback. Yeah. And from what we heard based off of the 7-hour meetings that they had when they first spoke with each other and everything we've seen on the field, this is a relationship and a dynamic that, like you said, should only get better.
Yeah.
And that's so exciting for a team like this that's already exceeded expectations. And quite frankly, I think Sam has exceeded a lot of people's expectations as well, especially how he bounced back in the air from game 2 to 3. Continue to get better, continue to improve, and continue to hold yourself to that standard. There's no reason to believe that by the end of this season, by the start of next season, Sam Leavitt can be talked about as one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12.
Yeah, I mean, nobody has higher expectations for Sam Leavitt than Sam Leavitt, right?
Yeah.
We definitely got that when we had the chance to talk to him in studio. If you missed that, check it out on the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. Kid is a gamer. He loves football and he wants to win. It's the only thing that he really wants to do out there on the field, which is exactly what you want from your quarterback, because Kenny and Marcus and Brian Ward and a lot of these guys have that same mentality of we're going to do whatever it takes to win, right? And there are, I think, a lot of young quarterbacks who, in Sam's position, transferring here from a different conference, other side of the country, would have stepped in at Arizona State and been like, okay, this is my show, right? I'm gonna do this. He earned the starting job, right? So much so that Jaden Rashada ended up transferring to Georgia.
He came here with the intention to compete with Jaden Rashada, who at the time, like, a lot of people were anointing like the next Sun Devil quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, look at all this potential, right? He came here and absolutely embraced that type of competition.
Yeah, and he won, right? He won, and then they brought in Jeff Sims. He beat him, and then obviously Trent Bourget on the roster as well beat him. Like, Sam Leavitt has done everything that you want your young quarterback to do. And so much so that in those first couple of games, he didn't need to go out there and ball, right? He knew what his role was. He needed to be a game manager and make certain throws. And yes, did he miss some deep balls at times? Absolutely. Guess what? He connected on one on Thursday night with Jordan Dyson. That was huge. He's only going to get better as a quarterback, but I will say so are the opponents, right? So the game plans, obviously, they're going to need to remain sharp. The consistency, the communication, everything is going to need to be taken up a notch if Arizona State is going to continue to move on in the Big 12 and stay undefeated and get a number next to their name, because going 4-0 is not the end-all, be-all, but it is where Arizona State does start, right? 3-0, chance to go 4-0 in the first Big 12 game, Arizona State, Texas Tech. It's going to go down in history, right? Like, this is stuff that you don't get to see too often in college athletics. It's going to be a phenomenal moment. And Kenny was asked at his press conference on Monday just about what it means to play in that first game.
Yeah, mindset. This is the first Big 12 game. Like, this will go down in literally history. There's only one game that's a first. And very few times in sports do you get to accomplish a first. Like a real first. Not like first time to have a 100-yard receiver and 2 sacks and 3 all the crazy first, like a real first. It's the first one, and it'll be remembered forever as Arizona State's first Big 12 game. The crowd there, I'm excited for the tortillas. I've heard there's tortillas they get thrown around. I mean, I'm excited for it because it's a challenge, but it's what college football is supposed to be. We walk out underneath the band is where I was told that our entrance is. A college band on the road, it's going to be loud. Their fans are diehard fans. It's a college town. Like, it's going to be an unbelievable environment for our guys to play in. And I think that's the exciting part about joining the Big 12 is the environments that we play in. And we got to make sure that we clean up the pre-snap penalties that we had on that one drive. Like I said, the majority of the game was good, other than one drive in the football game. And we got to be able to clean those up so we don't put ourselves by the sticks.
The biggest difference between playing in the Pac-12 and playing in the Big 12 is that every single road game that you're playing in Big 12 conference play, that crowd's going to be locked in.
It's going to feel like a road game.
It's not just going to feel like a road game. It's going to feel like the most important game of your life. You travel to West Virginia in the middle of October.
Yeah, Ray Anderson's favorite spot to go.
It's the biggest game of their life. Every single week is the biggest game of their life. And that's something that I think it's awesome that Kenny is kind of acknowledging that and taking that in, saying, this is something that's going to be a really big deal. I mean, listen, the first conference opponent in Big 12 history, like that might be a trivia question one day. You're at your favorite bar in Tempe and you're doing Sun Devil
20
trivia.
20 years from now.
And they're saying, who was the first team that Arizona State played when they started Big 12 conference play in 2024?
Texas Tech.
The answer is Texas Tech. And then they're going to ask you what the score was, and you're going to say 77-0. No, but
77-13.
Yeah, 13 flipped. I love this. I'm excited for the road game. I love how they responded on the road against Texas State. Talking to some of the players, they had a good environment at Texas State. Like, it certainly wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, it was their Super Bowl.
Right. It wasn't quiet, but from what I heard, it wasn't the craziest environment. I would expect a crazier environment at Tech, even though this isn't their Super Bowl. And they responded well on this road test. Now you have a lot of those other variables taken out of the way. You don't have a short week. You have a long week, right? You're not going to be as injured, looks like it. Getting your best pass rusher back in Prince Dorba is actually massive.
It is huge.
And you're facing a could be better team. A lot of people would assume is a better team in a much better environment.
Do you think Texas Tech is a better team than Arizona State? I know we've got a lot to get into.
I'm talking about Texas State.
I'm curious. Do you think Texas Tech is a better football team?
No, I don't. I think on all three phases of the ball, if you're combining those and like giving like a composite score, I would believe Arizona State's higher.
Yeah.
I don't think as of right now the gap is that massive. But I don't see a glaring weakness on ASU like I see on Texas Tech.
Yeah.
And I think that the trajectories of these teams, listen, North Texas is North Texas. I mean, I watched part of that game. It wasn't just them beating up on North Texas. It was North Texas beating up on North Texas. I mean, talk about multiple wide open grabs that would move the chains. And at that point, the game was already out of hand, but still. I would give the edge to ASU. I would say ASU is a better team, and I would say their trajectories are kind of going in opposite directions.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a gimme.
Ryan Neal in the chat, interesting, says Tech has way more talent. Interesting. I'll leave it at that. T.O. in the chat. I think this is T.O.'s first ever comment, to be honest with you. Favorite bar in Tempe, snake style draft would be fun. Definitely write that down. We'll see if we can get that for another time. That would definitely be good.
Chad Ochocinco in the chat.
And we also have Terrell Owens. I mean, just a couple of legends. Just chopping it up for the Sun Devils.
Loving the PHNX Sun Devils show.
Absolutely love it. Look, one of those weapons that Ryan is probably alluding to is tight end Jalin Conyers, right? Jalin, we absolutely love Jalin. Talked to him over the weekend. And
he had a crazy game.
He did. He absolutely did. And I love that dude. He is he's so much more like a friend than anything. And he obviously had a podcast on the network. The High Point was phenomenal. Always have him in here. And he's just like, he's a gamer. He wants to win football games. Transferred to Texas Tech and is really dominating at his position for the Red Raiders. It's a lot of fun to see. And Kenny was asked just about the former Sun Devil and kind of what that matchup holds and what he thinks of his former tight end.
Jalin was awesome Sun Devil here. I mean, he had his own podcast here. He was one of the most liked people in our program. I brought him to media days as a captain here. We went to Vegas together here. We took him to a show in Vegas during media days and went to dinner. Like, I had such a good relationship with Jalin. I'm glad to see his success. You know, he's had a really good first 3 games. You know, he's playing the Wildcat there. He's playing wide out. He's playing tight end. He's in the backfield as the second running back. He's back really close to home where his family and his mom, who he's really close to, can watch him. He's with a coach who I respect and a coach who I know will take care of him. So couldn't be happier for him and what's happened for him in the first 3 games. Hopefully there's one bad game in there, maybe week 4. That would be the goal, right? But other than that, I wish him nothing but the best, and I just want to see him succeed.
I mean, that's the right answer, right? That's
especially
the way
how he started it.
Yeah, that's the way that you answered that question. And again, Jalin was as phenomenal of a person as he was player. and still is. But I'm with Kenny on this one, right? Like had a solid 3 weeks of the season. If you want to take the week off, week 4, that'd be absolutely awesome. It'd be great. The nice thing though about this situation, right, is Kenny Dillingham coached Jalin Conyers. Jason Mons, the tight end coach for Arizona State, coached Jalin Conyers. You know what Jalin does as an athlete. You know what he does as a football player, and you know the challenges that he really presents. And what I think that does even more so is now you have an entire week to change, knowing your personnel going up against a guy who is a little bit of a mismatch for a lot of teams in Jalin Conyers, just based off of his spot, his speed, his size, and what he can do in terms of the ball in the air. So I think Arizona State is definitely going to have a game plan in preparation for Jalin Conyers.
I'd hope so,
but
I would expect them to.
Again, Jalin, if you want to take week 4 off, that's cool. I know he's been looking forward to this one, man.
Oh, I'm sure, especially because ASU is doing really well.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that adds a little fuel to the fire. Like if ASU was 0-3, I don't think going and playing ASU would have as much of a meaning. I think it would still mean something, but I think the fact that this is a game between ASU being a really good team and Texas Tech trying to prove themselves that they're a really good team.
Yeah.
I think that makes it a little bit extra special. Jalen's fantastic. I mean, obviously I wasn't here when he was doing the high point, but I was still aware, as you know. I mean, I talked to you before I got here that I was keeping up with everything that was going on here, and I always thought that was really cool, and Kenny bringing that up is really cool as well. So we'll see. He's really talented. He's really strong. He's really fast. I think you can game plan for him, and he'll still make his mark on the game, so I'm not expecting him to be taken out of it completely, but like I forget who mentioned it earlier in the chat, but like secondary and those defensive backs are going to get tested, and he's going to be that biggest test because he's like almost like a hybrid tight end wide receiver.
Yeah,
type.
Yeah.
He's not just going to get down and dirty.
Pain in the butt to tackle.
Yeah,
like he is a giant tight end. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see that matchup all game. But obviously, Jalin Conyers isn't the only weapon that Texas Tech has. We'll get into all of those weapons here in a little bit, but I do want to get to just a hint of what Kenny had to say about that Red Raiders offense, because let's be real, that is the focal point for Arizona State this week, is you got to shut down that Texas Tech offense. So what stands out about it? Well, this is Kenny's answer.
They score a lot. I mean, that stands out. I mean, I know that's a stupid answer, but like they score a lot. They're very creative. This coordinator, it's funny, I reached out to him. He was a D1AA coordinator before he went to Western Kentucky. And when he was a D1AA coordinator before he got hired at Western Kentucky, he had one of the top offenses in the country. And I used to reach out to all the younger dudes who were having success, and I randomly reached out to him on Twitter like, I'm going to watch your stuff just because you're scoring a lot. Like, so I want to watch it. And then, a month later, he goes to Western Kentucky. They hire the running backs coach that was working with us at Florida State, who I then later hired in Oregon, Carlos Lachlan. So there's a little bit of connection there, and I have a lot of respect for what he does offensively, and he knows how to score. He's really creative. You never see the same thing in back-to-back games, which I think is a testament to him in terms of changing up the pictures. He constantly changed up the pictures. So whatever you show your guys, you're probably not going to see on game day. Different formation, different motion, different shift. You may see the same plays, but you're not going to see the same physical, like copy-paste picture from game to game, and I think that's what makes them successful.
That's an interesting challenge.
Yeah.
It's an interesting challenge because it's somebody who, of course, Kenny Dillingham is familiar with this guy since, before he was coaching at Western Kentucky. Of course, Kenny's familiar with his game.
Kenny came out of the womb with a football in a playbook.
Yeah.
And he's just been grinding.
Just grinding tape. Yeah. I'm really excited to see how this defense responds because he's right. Tech does score a lot of points.
But so did State. So did Mississippi.
No, I know, but
those teams scored quickly.
Yeah, no, I know. But I think Texas Tech is the best offense that they're going to be playing. Best overall team. I think you can still argue Texas State, but
I think them and State are more similar than people think.
I agree. More similar than people think.
And I would say Tech has a worse defense.
Yes, I would agree. Tech has a worse defense. I would say their offense is a little better.
Maybe
a little better.
Maybe
a little better. A little better.
We'll get into it in the next segment.
Yeah, we'll see. I am excited just to see how they respond to this type of test and how Kenny put it. I mean, obviously, I'm not as familiar with that as Kenny was about him changing every single game, but that's a really unique obstacle and challenge to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, that's valid. The offense is certainly going to be the thing that you need to stop if you are Arizona State. I don't have any issues with this Arizona State offense going up against Texas Tech. Cam Skattebo is in for a monster day.
Yeah.
And I think Sam Leavitt can ball as well and build off of what he did against Texas State and really start to gain some confidence heading into that bye week.
Glenn saying another week of Erik hyping up another team's offense and we win again. LOL.
Whatever we got to do, right?
Hey, if that's the pattern, then we'll take it. Listen, you got to respect your opponents. I still think Arizona State's better, but you got to respect them. And we'll continue to talk about Texas Tech on the other side of this break. But first, I love telling you guys about our friends over at Shady Rays. Just had to pop them on just for the ad read. Anthony Totri is not wearing a Shady Rays today, so I felt like it'd be rude of me. I
left him in the car.
It would be rude of me to wear them during the show because I would just be rubbing it in because they are premium polarized sunglasses from an independent sunglasses company. It is a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. And you know what? Sometimes I'm told that I look like a blind mouse with these frames. I love these frames. I won't change these frames. In fact, I ordered another pair of these frames just because I like them that much.
Exact same ones, huh?
Exact same ones. Wow. Just as a backup.
Committed to the bit.
Just as a backup, right? And listen, Shady Rays not only has so many different polarizing options, see what I did there, but also have different colorways and whatever, plus the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by a lost or broken guarantee replacement. And if you don't love your shades, you can exchange them for a new pair or return worry-free within the first 30 days. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com. Use code PHNX for 35% off. 35% off. Polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
Yeah, Bees. I'm slacking a little bit. I need to stop at Circle K, get myself an energy drink, fuel up my car. You know I'm still taking advantage of all the deals that they have over at Circle K with their free membership program that is Inner Circle. Look, if you haven't signed up already, it's super easy. It literally takes 60 seconds or less. It's easy to download. Enter your email and phone number to be fully enrolled, and then right after that, all you need is your phone number to get the deals. And we're talking deals on gas, we're talking deals on Polar Pops, and we're talking deals on snacks as well. But their big deal, if you're new, is save 25 cents per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. And then every day after that, you guys can save 3 cents per gallon as well. It really does start to add up. Those 25 cents on your first 5 fill-ups, turn that into a Polar Pop, maybe even a couple, guys. Join Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit circlek.com for details. Bees in chat. It's okay. Chat forgives you. We'll use the promo code.
Good.
Thank you, Bees. I really do appreciate that. All right, you want to get into those Red Raiders? You want to do that real quick?
No,
you don't want to do it? You just want to end the show right here?
it's over. Yeah, let's do it.
Let's get to Zach's question. I'm sure we'll talk about it at the end. Chances that Leavitt throws for 300 yards and Scat goes for 150 plus 75% of our offense is going to light up Tech's defense. 300 for Leavitt, $150 for Scat. What do we got? It's only Monday.
Those are big lines.
I'm taking Scat's 150 easily.
I can't take both.
So you don't think ASU has offensive fireworks in that game?
I do. I think having...
Well, then you could get there.
I do feel like the running back love is going to be a little bit more spread out. I would take... I will continue to doubt.
Oh, my God.
No, stop. Let me finish my sentence.
Look at this guy.
Let me finish my sentence.
Boo.
Because I would love to be proven wrong. I would love to be proven wrong. You know what's so funny to me is that in all of the things that we clip, all the comments just say I'm the biggest homer in the world. Like they are literally like, this dude is the biggest homer.
You're really a negative Nancy though.
And then we're in this show and I'm like, oh, Erik's hyping up another team again. Oh, Erik doesn't think that Leavitt's going to go for 300 plus yards in the air and Scott's going to go for 150. That's a lot.
It is.
450, not all-purpose yards, but rushing and passing.
Yeah.
If we want to go all-purpose yards, 100%. I think that's completely
300
doable.
through the air.
300 through the air and 150 on the ground alone, solo.
Yeah, like what do you have?
250?
I mean,
like
50
240,
more yards
250
against a way worse defense. And if you look real quick, if you look at these Texas Tech ASU games in the past, they are fireworks shows.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
You've got the Mahomes and Balaj one. You got the other one. The other one where ASU went to Tech and Nick Shimonik torched ASU's defense. Like these games just have offensive firepower at all times.
Yeah. Dallas says running back room won't be spread. Brooks is week by week. Brown is most likely not playing. Is Raleek most likely not playing?
Raleek is questionable. Yeah, Kenny said he's not going to play him unless he's 100%.
Bro, so Glenn called me the hall monitor type. That
hurts. Was it Glenn or Will that said that you're fun at parties?
Oh, what? Dude,
Zach's got all comments. Come on, man.
Bro, just because, all right.
The hall monitor type is awesome.
All right.
The hall monitor.
Right.
That's a new nickname.
All right.
Let's go. The hall monitor Ruby has arrived. Bees, what's the over-under on this game? It
75.
It was at 58.5 when I had the initial tweet that they were a 3.5-point underdog. It has since moved to 59.5. So take that with a grain of salt. I think that line is just going to continue to rise all week long. So get it while it's hot. Because wouldn't be shocked if this was sitting at 61, 62 points before kickoff. So
should be a fun game.
Should be a really fun game.
Is that too positive for everybody? Look, this game should be pretty
Getting into Tech just a little bit, what their early season has had in store for them. They're fresh off a giant 66-21 win over North Texas. You could take that and say that Texas Tech scored 66 whopping points, or you could flip that on its head and say they gave up 21 points to North Texas.
And it should have been more.
Do what you got to do. They opened the season, though, with a 52-51 win over Abilene Christian in overtime. An embarrassing performance, to be completely honest with you. Yeah, defensively, giving up 50-some-odd points is absolutely ludicrous to Abilene Christian. Second game of the season, they lost to a Washington State team that I think is better than people really understand. They lost 37-16 on the road. It's a tough place to play in Pullman. Arizona State knows a lot about that. There are a lot of things that Arizona State fans should keep an eye on. Just in terms of what this offense does. Texas Tech, second in yards per game, total yards in the Big 12. First in passing yards, eighth in rush yards. Not as well as you'd think for a team that has Taj Brooks at running back. And then they're second in points per game. Believe it's 47.5 points per game.
It's a lot of points.
Or 44, mind you. 44.7
when you
points
scored
per game.
16 in one of those games.
Yeah, and again, who did they score a ton of points on? North Texas and Abilene Christian.
Right, and 100%. Plus, losing
like those guys, you don't see anybody going to the league from those schools. Those guys are like insurance salesmen.
Yeah.
And like finance majors.
Yeah, they're podcasters. God, who would want to be a podcaster?
Not even podcasters.
Yeah. I mean, look, you've played one good team this season and you lost by 20 points.
Yeah.
And to be fair, Washington State's good. I mean, Washington State beat Washington.
They did beat Washington.
Which is so weird that happened in week 3.
Yeah.
That's very strange. Very strange. But anyways, you played one good team and you put up 16 points, right? I think Arizona State is a good team. Obviously.
I think they're better than Washington State.
That. I don't know enough about Washington State to make that decision. But Washington State's definitely
here we go. Negative Nancy. The hall monitor. The hall monitor has arrived.
End the show, Totri. End the show. Hall monitor's put an end to this.
Look, that offense, before we just grill this Texas Tech defense, we'll get into that offense here. They're led by quarterback Bren Morton, I believe is how you say his name.
Terrible quarterback name.
66.4% completion percentage, 974 passing yards, which is the most as a team in this conference. 10 touchdowns to 2 INTs. Hasn't turned the ball over too much early on in the season. Again, you could take that with a grain of salt, say who have they played defensively. But I would say you're still needing to contain Taj Brooks. 262 yards on the ground this season, averages 6 yards a tote. 2 touchdowns. Again, I'd expect him to have a little bit more throughout the start of the season, given who they've played. But Taj Brooks is a hell of a running back, and he needs to be contained at all times because he can make life pretty miserable. And obviously, if you let Taj Brooks get going, then that opens up this aerial attack that Morton has kind of at his disposal. That's Josh Kelly, right? Josh Kelly, a wide receiver, 6'1", $195. He is the receiver for Tech. 21 receptions, 287 yards, 2 touchdowns through the first 3 weeks of the season. 21 receptions through 3 weeks is pretty ridiculous. He's averaging 7 yards a game or 7 receptions a game. They've also got wide receivers Coy Eakin, Caleb Douglas, and then of course our friend Jalin Conyers. When you put all that together, they've got an offense that you can see that puts up 44.7 points per game.
Really good test for the defensive line. Awesome to have Prince Dorba back.
Absolutely massive.
Really good test for the secondary as well.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this is going to be a game where you're going to learn a lot about Arizona State's defense. I feel like we've learned a lot, but you're going to continue to kind of uncover exactly who they are, especially if you're not getting some of those other injured guys back.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to really be tested here.
Also, one injury note, we already visited injuries. LaTerrence Welch is still out, cornerback for Arizona State. He's the LSU transfer. He's still out.
Yeah.
Definitely hurts not having that level of secondary depth back there. But again, Arizona State, you can only play with the guys that you have out there. That is really the offense. Obviously, as the week goes on, we will get far more in depth into formations, kind of the schemes that they've run and what we've seen throughout the year. But realistically, it's not the offense that is the issue for Texas Tech. It is that defense. Put it in all caps in the rundown. That defense sucks in all caps.
I think that's the only analysis we have to do.
That defense is horrendous. Total of 2 sacks on the year through 3 games is putrid. They've recovered 1 fumble, 4 INTs. Again, they played Abilene Christian and
North Texas.
You should be better than that defensively for a Power 4 defense. Defensive ranks in the conference. Right now, they're 15th in total yards a game. Offenses are just absolutely going nuts. And again, Abilene Christian, North Texas are 2 of those teams. 13th in allowing pass yards, 15th in rush yards. Cam Skattebo, have yourself a day. And then they are the worst team in the Big 12 in terms of points per game. So Arizona State's offense should feast.
You know what? I think that Sam Leavitt can go for 300 yards in the air and Cam Skattebo can probably get 150 on the ground. That's what I think.
I mean, now you're just being unrealistic.
Yeah, I'm being crazy.
I need you to be better. I need you to find the middle ground there. Find the middle ground there. Can you do that for me?
I'll try. No, I can't.
No, it's a hot or cold.
Yeah. You know me.
Yeah.
There's really no in between.
You do what you got to do. You do what you got to do. Guys, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a 5-star review. That is going to do it for today's episode of the PHNX Sun Devils Show. We appreciate everybody watching live. And then, of course, listening on audio. We don't forget about you guys.
We
really
love you guys.
Appreciate you. Also, quick note, head to gophnx.com. Sign up to become a diehard. It is super, super easy, super, super simple, and you get so much. You're going to get access to that diehard Discord. You're going to get a free t-shirt or hat every single year. You're getting exclusive diehard only content and discounts on events and merch and so much more. Travis in the chat, you guys are a good listen. Looking forward to good game. 52-7.5. Third string defense gave up the last 14. First game, our defense was healthy at DB this season. Taj Brooks was out week 2. Appreciate you guys. We'll see just how good that game is. Obviously, a lot more coverage as the week goes on. So make sure you are subscribed to PHNX Sports. And if you enjoyed the content, give us a follow at PHNX_Sun Devils. Yes, Mr. Hallmatter.
Is your nickname Butter?
I'm not getting into that.
No. You can't give me a million different freaking nicknames and then the chat says Butter and you're not going to get into it?
It was a whole thing.
I'm holding this stream hostage.
It was a whole thing.
Okay.
I had never had bread and butter before. Butter.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, I have since had toast and butter. It's fine.
Insane.
It's not as good as jelly or jam.
You know what's almost as
Or
insane
peanut
as that? Is that not having the bread and butter is thinking cold pizza is better than hot pizza.
Dude, you're wrong. You're going to make me mad on a Monday.
All right, end the stream.
Give me a follow at Anthony_Totri. You can follow the hall monitor at Erik Ruby. That is Erik with a K.
Checking
you can
bathroom
follow
passes as always.
Captain Redbeard steering the ship clear of the 7 seas and pirates and Red Raiders at this point at K-Coop Sports. And we will see you guys Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Be here or be square in the meantime. Go Devils and peace.
We all silly like the mayor.